Well, good Monday morning to you. Welcome to our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm your host, Jim Tabor, along with Doctors Jim and Janine Fox of Doctor's Nutrition, located on Calamarain Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road. We do this every Monday, just in case you're tuning in for the first time. For about 9 years now, we've been doing this show live on Monday mornings. And it is a live call-in show. We usually talk about something in particular, and usually at some point during the month, we'll do a segment where it's called Open Line, where you can call about anything. But really, if you have a question regarding your health that's not on topic today, that's fine, because that's what this show is all about, helping you to live a healthier lifestyle. So our phone lines are open at 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. And this morning we're going to talk about something that at one point or the other, every adult and probably some kids in their life have to deal with at some point, and that is fatigue.
Yep, it's probably the biggest complaint we hear. There might be other complaints with it, but it's always fatigue and something else. I mean, so fatigue is always part of the complaint most of the time when people come in and have complaints. You know, we have a lot of people that come in and don't have complaints. They're just wanting to see wellness and wanting to, you know, that's the best thing to do, is don't wait until you do have a problem. But that when people do have a problem, that is our number one symptom that we hear is fatigue.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, and I think that was the thing with me is the only issue that I had years ago was my cholesterol was a little high, and I'm on blood pressure medication. But as far as having any other major issues, I didn't. But still got on the wellness side of it, and doing what I needed to do to. And I tell you what, it has made the biggest difference in my life. It really has. Yeah. So I mean, you getting blood work on a regular basis, which is like once a year kind of thing, or depending on your situation. But these are things that you do need to do, and especially the older that we get.
Right.
Or should I say the more we mature.
Yeah, more mature. Yeah, I like that one better. Yeah.
The more we mature.
Got to be proactive in your own health.
That's right.
Yeah,
because nobody else can do it for you.
Right, exactly.
So what does fatigue feel like, besides being tired?
Well,
the biggest complaint that we get with fatigue is they're just tired. They have no energy, no get up and go, or as many will say, my get up and go has got up and went. Yeah. Okay, and so that's what they feel. They just don't have any energy. They can't do anything.
It's funny. Some people on their sheet, when it says main complaint, will just put I'm old and then tired. It's funny. I'm old and tired.
And when you look at their age, they're not really that old.
A lot of times these people aren't very old. And I'm like, it ain't because you're old.
No.
And so that is actually what we hear, though, in a lot of people.
Yeah.
And just because you're getting old doesn't mean you have to be so fatigued you can't go. You don't know how many people we do get come in their 80s. And they were just told, oh, well, you're old, that's why you don't feel good. Well, when we do lab work, there's definitely reasons for it. And when you fix the underlying reasons and you get them feeling better again, they can't believe the difference. It's like, it wasn't because I was old, because I'm still older and I feel good now.
Yeah.
So you don't have to feel bad just because you're getting old.
Yeah, it's about the quality of life. I mean, granted, we would like to extend that lifespan as much as we can, but at the same time, you want to feel pretty good when you're doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, that's a big deal, is feeling good when you're doing something, when you're living longer.
So what is the cause of fatigue?
Oh, geez.
That's what we're talking about today, is the causes, because there are
Get your pens out, get ready to write all this
Yeah.
multiple. That's the one symptom that can be it can be everything.
Yeah, it
anything,
can be.
everything can cause fatigue. I mean, anywhere from, like I said, mental, where it's depression, but it could be anything from an iron deficiency, a B12 deficiency, a folate deficiency, a magnesium deficiency, all your nutrients.
Iron
That's
deficiencies,
always something that we look at.
Remember the old commercials, iron poor type. Have you got iron poor tired blood?
Right, yeah.
And just because you're tired don't mean you need to go out and take iron. I've had people that were getting tired and remember that commercial, some of the older people, and they start taking iron, and when they come in, their iron is sky high, and you don't want that either, because too much iron makes you tired. So it's kind of like, don't just take something thinking, oh, well, it must be this, because it's not always that. Another big thing that we see, thyroid problems. So thyroid problems make you tired. Stress hormone.
I was going to say adrenals were another issue. Yeah.
Adrenals is something that we have seen a huge increase in problems in the last years.
Since COVID.
Well, but even before COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just as the world gets more stressful, which it is, we're seeing more adrenal issues, which the adrenals are what handle stress. And if they're too low, it makes you tired. If they're too high, it makes you tired. So the thing is you can't just say I'm tired, it must be my adrenals. You got to check and see, is it high or low? Because if you go the wrong way, take something that makes it go the wrong way, it's going to make it worse.
Yep.
So there's, I mean, and the same thing with thyroid. Overactive thyroid makes you tired. Underactive thyroid makes you tired.
Can a bad diet make you?
Good Lord, yeah.
Sugar problems. We see fatigue, huge difference in people that are diabetic and pre-diabetic. That's one of the first symptoms they start having, is they just get sluggish and tired.
Yeah.
And when they start changing their diet and getting off of sugar and processed foods, and they can't believe the difference in energy. I mean, I hear that from everybody.
Yeah.
If they truly change their diet. They say the first 2 weeks is rough because you got to get used to it, and you're going to have sugar withdrawal, and you're going to have all that stuff. But after that, people say, I cannot believe the difference in how I feel just from changing my diet.
You know, they did a study, I think it was University of California, San Francisco, and they checked the areas of the brain that lights up with sugar. And they checked the same areas of the brain when they did like MRIs and studies, and they said the same area of the brain lights up when you do cocaine. So if you do cocaine or sugar, it lights up the same centers in the brain. So yeah, it's addictive. And so for that first 2 weeks, now like she mentioned, you know, and we don't sugarcoat that one for sure, because it's going to be rough when you start changing. But hey, if you're on cocaine and you stop, it's going to be rough, okay? So just, you know, changing your lifestyle. Yeah, he's laughing. Oh, yeah, okay.
Never
yeah, sure
thought
enough.
about that.
Never thought about that one, did you,
well,
buddy?
it's withdrawal.
Yeah, it's withdrawal.
Withdrawal symptoms are real, and
Very.
some people do have withdrawal when they stop it. But there's no doubt it makes a huge difference when you change your diet.
Yeah, because every few days I'll get a need for some chocolate.
Well, dark
chocolate has
fine.
benefits.
Dark chocolate.
But if it gets a very dark, 70 or what,
Yeah.
70% or above, you know, and just a little bit of
And
that.
y'all have some great dark chocolate over
We
there.
do.
We've got a couple of them that are pretty good, and you know, a little square of that stuff doesn't have much to it, you know, but boy, I mean, it's, you know, it hits the spot.
So actually, chocolate has some benefits and a lot of antioxidant properties. We just talked about antioxidants.
Has some redeeming qualities.
Yeah,
Actually,
so it does.
Some of the extracts actually good for the
It's
brain.
just all the sugar they add to it, and most of your commercialized chocolate that is just nothing but sugar.
Right.
And
Milk
a
chocolate,
tiny bit of
Yeah, milk chocolate.
tiny bit of cocoa.
Yeah,
So it just has a little bit, but you want the real thing, it's not as bad for you.
right.
So there's a lot of ways you can actually change your diet that's not that bad. A lot of times people, once they start doing it, they say, this ain't as hard as I thought it was going to be. Because you still can have some good stuff, it's just you got to change what you do.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about fatigue this morning. If you have any questions regarding that or anything else regarding your health, our phone lines are open at 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. It's 8 minutes after 9 o'clock here on this Monday morning. We're going to take a break and then we'll be right back. And welcome back. We're talking about fatigue this morning on our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. Our phone lines are 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. Of course, this rain that we get, that just automatically makes it. What is it about rain that just makes you sleepy?
Just
relaxing.
I think, yeah.
Just relaxing. Have you seen more fatigue problems since COVID?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And for a few different reasons. The stress that's everybody's felt, we talked about it just a minute ago, the adrenal glands.
Yeah.
We have seen so much more problems, especially in kids, teenagers and in the 20-year-olds that were actually shut in, and even though now they're not, it's still, their cortisol are sky high. So we're seeing a lot more cortisol issues since COVID. And then also, the long COVID itself makes fatigue.
Which, and we get a lot of people with the long COVID things, and what one of the things that's kind of come out in the research in the past year or two is the problem of Epstein-Barr virus. And most of you probably never heard of it called Epstein-Barr or EBV, but you've probably heard of mononucleosis, right?
Oh, yeah, kissing disease.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Well, that's the virus that causes it, is the Epstein-Barr. And two guys named Epstein and Barr. You know, who knows? You know, Smith couldn't do it. You know, he was off that day. So the Epstein-Barr virus is just, it's everywhere. I mean, you don't know, over the years we've had so many people come in complaining of these chronic fatigue problems and so on. And you get down to it and you do the Epstein-Barr virus, and there's like 4 different tests you have to do to figure out, is it old, is it new, has it been reactivated, that kind of thing. And so we do all those testing in a panel, and when you do, you look at it and you say, well, when did you have mono? Well, I've never had that. Well, yeah, you've got the antibodies to it. I mean, they're sky high. And oh, by the way, it's reactivated right now. Well, what caused that? stress, and
Well, actually,
COVID.
they've shown that COVID itself reactivates Epstein-Barr in a lot of people. And because what increases any virus? Being run down and stressed out, or a lowered immune system. So that can do it for anybody. And a lot of people understand more when they look at people, when you tell them, they look at you like you're crazy, like, what do you mean? And I said, well, once you've had EBV, you're gonna have it forever. It's kind of like most people have heard of having chicken pox. It never leaves your body, and then later in life, it comes out as shingles. Well, the same thing happens with Epstein-Barr. It just doesn't come out as something that's named something different.
And it may be some different symptoms.
And it doesn't have any external symptoms the way shingles does. Because when shingles pops out, it is obvious blisters and pain and all,
Yeah.
So it's more easily diagnosed.
All right.
The Epstein-Barr virus, on the other hand, just makes you so tired you can't move, can't get up, that's the big thing that it makes is your chronic fatigue. It can swell the glands. So, but that is one of the things that happens. And they've definitely, a lot of experts out there say that COVID is reactivating Epstein-Barr in some people, and they think it is part of long COVID.
Yeah.
Now, COVID itself can cause long COVID
Right.
without Epstein-Barr, but a lot of times they are together. So Epstein-Barr, we've seen it for years. We've seen it in young people. We've actually done the Epstein-Barr panel on 5, 6-year-olds that were just so tired they couldn't go, and they actually showed they already had it and it was reactivated.
Wow.
So believe it or not, it's out there, and most of us have had it.
Most of us
And
been
it's
exposed
just
to
more,
it.
that's one reason it is so important to keep your immune system strong, because if it's not, things like that pop back out.
We talk about keeping that immune system strong and healthy all the time. I mean, I don't know that there's a show goes by that we don't mention keeping the immune system strong, healthy, and vibrant, right? And yet, people ignore their immune system.
Right.
I mean, when it comes back to the simple stuff, just like the diet, that can ruin your immune system.
Right.
But when you think about your immune system, Epstein-Barr's there. It's not the only one. There's a bazillion viruses out there. Go back to the herpes zoster, which causes your shingles. Yes, it's there. Can it reactivate? Sure. That's why it reactivates so much in folks that get a little bit more mature, because they've let their immune system go, and boom, here we go. And it's the same thing. They're going to start having the fatigue. They're going to have the symptoms, and same thing. And Epstein-Barr is just one. There's many. There's thousands. And a lot of people come in and say, well, I want to be checked for all the viruses. Trust me, you don't have enough blood in your body. You really don't. But, and probably don't have enough money in the bank, because it would take thousands of tests to figure out all the various viruses. And it's just not feasible. Keep that immune system strong.
Yeah,
That's
keep
the number
it
one
healthy. For a while during COVID, everybody was taking their vitamin D and keeping their vitamin D up. We
Yep.
were seeing much less vitamin D deficiency during the midst of it. Well, it's still here, but yet everybody's D, we're starting to see low D again in everybody, which means everybody's kind of got the guard down.
Yep.
And you don't need to just keep your immune system strong because of COVID. You need to keep it strong because of everything that's out there.
Yeah.
And so that's what a lot of people don't do. And that's one of the really important things to do. Now, when people come in with long COVID, we definitely have things that help. I mean, the natto kinase has been shown to eat up the spike protein. We always use our Olivir and then the natto if somebody comes in with long COVID. If they still have a cough, we'll use NAC, SPM, and if somebody has the extreme fatigue, the Olivir also is one thing that we've used even for EBV, and lysine. Lysine is an amino acid that keeps down the replication of the herpes viruses. So taking enough of that will also keep them from popping back out.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things you can do naturally to actually help with these things. It isn't just that you can find out if you have them and then can't do anything about it. There's definitely things you can do about it because we do it every day.
Yeah.
Are there different degrees of fatigue?
Well, there are. There are actually, some people, they're just tired, they're regular tired. And some regular tired is normal. If you work all day and you run all day and and then you're tired at night, that's normal. But then there's the fatigue where you can't even get up.
Yeah.
The people that can't even get out of bed. They're like, I'm just can't even work or can't even do anything or and they might even go to work, but they can barely do that. And the minute they get home, they fall asleep. And we hear that a lot from people too.
Right.
They might be still functioning, but yet they have no life outside of what they absolutely have to do.
Right.
So there are
That's
definitely
common.
big degrees and differences in the amount of fatigue. And even with the adrenals we mentioned, high and low both cause fatigue. When you're high, you have more anxious fatigue. When you're low, you have more can't get up fatigue.
We get a common complaint sometimes where people say, I am so tired, blah, blah, blah. But then you see their cortisol, and then you say, well, are you jittery? Oh yeah, inside I'm just shaking. But outside, I can't move effectively.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm done.
So there are differences depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's easy to find out what's going on. It's some simple blood work. It can kind of help you figure it out.
And like I said, like we said, almost everything can cause fatigue. I mean, we mentioned the common things, but liver failure, kidney failure, you start getting into some of the severe problems, that also causes fatigue.
Oh,
too.
definitely.
Yeah.
As well as depression.
And anemia and depression.
As well as depression.
Yeah, all that can do
Right.
it.
All right, 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. 17 minutes after 9 o'clock, we're talking about fatigue, so if you have any questions, we're going to come back in a moment for our final break and look at this week's special. And welcome back. It's 19 minutes after 9 o'clock. It's our final segment of this morning's live show. Let's go ahead and show you what the special of the week is this week.
Yeah, it's a fatigue panel, and we put a panel together specifically for that. And one of the things that's on it is that EBV. We're going to check you out stem to stern on that one. Plus, it does things like serum iron. Find out if you're anemic. It does your CBC. It does all the normal stuff, kidneys, liver, etc. Sees how you handle blood sugar, because that can be a big part of it as well.
Right.
If you're pre-diabetes, that kind of thing.
It does all the sugar markers. It does your 4 different tests on thyroid. It does your adrenals, the cortisol, the DHEA. It checks, like I said, iron both in the bloodstream and in storage. It does the EBV panel at the same time. So it does all of them for that, because we just figured make a fatigue panel, and that way it does add the EBV, since we are seeing so much more of it.
And normally it's $225, and this week it's total $190 for everything. And it includes your analysis as well.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that we can do just, in our everyday life to combat, getting fatigue?
For one, getting enough sleep. Because
Sleep is
even
huge.
getting enough sleep plays a big role in your immune system.
Right.
If you don't get sleep, that's when you get run down, the immune system gets run down, things come out. So sleep is so important. And it's not just about, you got to make sure some people say, oh, I sleep great, but they sleep 5 hours a night. It's not enough. I mean, research has shown, now there's a little bit different degrees on the amount of sleep you need for different ages, but on average, basically 7.5 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And there's nobody that needs less. They might think they do, but it's going to catch up to them. So sleep, I would say, is most important. Exercise is important. Eating right is important. So you need to do all those things and keep your nutrients where they should be.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest ones nowadays. Because if you look at the standard American diet, and we've talked about it, it's called SAD, S-A-D, Standard American Diet, and it is sad. It truly is. When you look at it and the amount of nutrients that it doesn't have, it's scary. And the amount of chemicals that it has in it is really scary. We've talked about that on shows in the past. And some of those, we've got these forever chemicals, the PFAS stuff and so on. Everybody's seen them out and they're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? You can't hide. So you have to try to get rid of that stuff, or at least clean up your life as best you can. Because we totally have to stay away from things that are going to add to what we're having problems with, and that's the key. And it's we talked about, again, the Environmental Working Group. We've give you that one, ewg.org. Go there, look at everything. Even look up your sunscreen for this time of year.
It'll tell you the different products that you use that are better. And you start changing things, shampoos and lotions and things like that, and not using sodium lauryl sulfate, and not doing the parabens, and not doing some of the chemicals you can avoid.
Yeah.
Because you can find stuff now without all those things.
And they really do have an effect on our body. And one of those effects, long term, fatigue. So, because it can cause all these other problems. It can cause the adrenals not to function properly.
Right.
It can cause the thyroid not to work properly. It can mess with your hormones, other hormones. Like we're talking about sex hormones like testosterone, estrogen, and so on. It can mess with all that. So if you got all that stuff messed up, then
Yeah,
you know,
that's another reason for fatigue is hormones.
Yeah.
We didn't even mention that, but low testosterone in men, definitely fatigue is one of the big things they'll start seeing. The hormones are not on the fatigue panel, but we can add them for $75. But the hormones are an issue. Now, women right when they hit menopause, the fatigue with that is actually, that's one of the main symptoms I hear when people start hitting menopause. I am so tired. Because when they first start changing, it makes you tired because you're used to having them and now you don't. So it is a big change.
One of the keys, we get a lot of guys coming in and fairly young nowadays, and we start looking at, and matter of fact, if you look it up, you know, do a Google search if you want to. Go to Google Scholar sometimes, it's a little bit better. But if you go to Google and you find out, like, okay, what's the problem with testosterone, you can see that we're declining, we've been declining for 20 or more years, 30 years. The testosterone levels in men have been declining. And we're seeing younger and younger men now with low testosterone. And every one of them that's got very low testosterone, just about to the person, has a sugar handling problem. They've got prediabetes, insulin resistance, because that's one of the key underlying things. That's come out in the research. Yep, insulin causes problems. Not just weight gain, things like that. It actually causes things like hormonal changes as well, too.
It makes PCOS in females.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's a lot of things, just even the diet plays a role, and all those conditions make you tired. Because when you don't have adequate hormones, when you don't have, there's so many things that make fatigue, again. So get checked. If you're that way and it's affecting your life, there is something you can do about it.
So
vitamin D deficiency, we didn't even mention that one. That one makes extreme fatigue. So that's a big one.
Well, a lot of people will probably think, okay, I'm tired or whatever. I'll start pumping. Of course, we drink water up here, but I'll start pumping myself full of caffeine and
that is not the thing to do.
Power drinks and all that caffeine drinks.
Yeah, somebody
makes it worse.
Somebody just a week or so ago was showing me or telling me about a drink that they were using for hydration. And I'd never heard of it, so I looked it up right quick, you know, on the computer while I was talking to him on the phone. It's got like 28 grams of sugar or something like that per bottle, and I'm thinking, I don't care what kind of electrolytes it's got in it, you're getting way too much sugar.
It's like drinking a drink. It's all of those drinks just about do.
Yeah.
And then if it's not that, it is actually artificial sweeteners, which have been shown to have a big set of problems. Even recently, the sucralose showing that it changes your DNA.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, you got to look at what you're taking and drinking and eating, because people don't look.
Yeah, you know, that
I don't know how many
sucralose
times
thing's
I'll look
scary.
up stuff when people are sitting there to see what they're taking every day, and I'm like, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah, that sucralose, if you think about it, my DNA may not be great to begin with, okay, but I don't want something like sucralose changing it for me, because I don't know what it's going to do to it. So, interesting fact about it.
Of course, if you have to have artificial sweetener for your coffee or something like that, I know you've talked about stevia.
Well, that's not artificial.
It's not artificial. It's not artificial.
Stevia is a natural product. It's a leaf of a tree.
Yeah.
No,
or
what I'm saying is you recommend stevia.
Right, but you
or
said
monk fruit.
Yeah, you said if you need artificial sweeteners, and you don't ever need artificial sweeteners.
Yeah.
You need an
an alternative.
You need an alternative.
Alternative. That's a better word.
Okay, an alternative for your artificial sweetener.
Yeah.
Stevia, which is what I use, and or monk fruit.
Yeah, pure monk fruit is pretty good. It's okay. Stevia. Some people claim about that stevia has an aftertaste. Typically, when I talk to them, they're using way too much.
Yeah.
And it will give you an aftertaste.
Sure.
You know, it kind of like, ooh.
Especially if you use too much of it.
Yeah, but monk fruit's pretty good about it. Just a drop or two of that, whatever, it really helps. And anything.
Or get to where you like it without that sweet taste.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No.
Unsweetened is good.
So next week is Labor Day. The show will be on, but we will not be here. We're going to rerun the segment. It's been a while on red light and the benefits of the red light therapy.
Which is great for mitochondrial function and anti-aging.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, hope you have yourself a wonderful week. Be careful out there with all this wonderful rain that we're getting, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim Tabor at 896-1313.